Your boss, Michelle Lujan Grisham, the governor of New Mexico, is termed out. She's finishing up at the end of the year. What is the staying power of rules that are being propagated through this Environmental Improvement Board if the next governor of New Mexico doesn't have the same priorities?
So good news is that this is in both state law and state administrative code. So you would have to change both the you'd have to go to the legislature and undo the state law to reduce these protections we secured for New Mexicans. So the staying power is pretty high. We also have a whole team of career people at the Environment Department who are, working on these rules, working to provide technical assistance, working to enforce the rules. So
that may stay through the next administration.
Exactly, exactly. But one other thing to think about, I know New Mexico shifts political winds on occasion. One of the things that's really interesting about the PFAS Protection Act, or all our PFAS legislation, it all got passed in one session. It's taken us 4 years to get clean fuels through. We still don't have comprehensive climate legislation. But my point is, we had a really strong bipartisan support. And let's face it, where's PFAS contamination, literally the red zone, the hot zone? It's in rural New Mexico, in deep red counties. And so you have bipartisan support for our work on PFAS, unlike some of the other bills we bring.
What do you see as the difference there? Why?
Because, whether you have exposure to people or exposure to groundwater or exposure to the agricultural sector, you have legislators who live in those communities that really want to do the right thing for those individuals. They are supportive of public health. They are supportive of, protecting their economic base. Think about this. I've had an individual, more than one, in Curry County come up to me and say, I'm not able to pass my property down to my kids because it has no value anymore.
Because of the contamination.
Yeah, so if that pulls at your heartstrings or public health strings, great. But the other thing to think about is if your property has no value, where is a county going to get its tax revenue from? Right? So there's as much of a public health focus, an environmental focus, and an economic focus associated with PFAS.
Okay. Well, and PFAS isn't just in these firefighting foams. You've mentioned it's in our homes. It's all around us. There's another new rule that the Environmental Improvement Board approved in March that is about labeling the consumer products that contain PFAS. What's required under that rule?
Yeah, first, I am really proud of this rule because we are the first state in the country to pass a rule that takes a chemistry flask, something you might remember back from, high school or college chemistry, or maybe trying to forget from high school and college chemistry.
Yeah.
But we take this little icon of a flask, we put the word PFAS in it, and it will be on any product that contains intentionally added PFAS. Why I'm proud.
That's the symbol.
That's the symbol, and why I'm proud of that, and why that's important in New Mexico, is we're not. We speak in English, we speak in Spanish, we speak in Vietnamese here. We have different levels of understanding or different levels of education. So if we just put a label on something that said this contains perm polyfluoral, it doesn't translate
it's
well.
The kind of stuff that people might skip over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've brought a civil right to safe products being in your home through this icon.
Okay, and when does it roll out?
January.
Okay.
So we're excited to see it happen.
And how does that rule that was approved in March relate to the PFAS Protection Act, which is the statute that you're talking about? It was signed into law last year. That one phases in bans of these consumer products over time. So the labeling, I imagine, connects with this phasing out of these products altogether?
Yeah, so you're going to see certain products disappear from the shelf that contain PFAS. So let's say it's a baby or juvenile products like clothing. Maybe it's a product a bib for a child that contains PFAS. Those may be phased out completely and you won't see those on the shelf. What you will see are safer product choices. And to the extent that a product is still allowed to be sold, meaning it's not phased out, but it does contain PFAS, then you'll see the label on that product or its packaging.
Okay, and the phasing out process is over many years, right? It starts in January until 2032. But there are, as you're mentioning, certain exempt products that will never be phased out over that period of time. Why did they get an exemption? Why did they get a pass?
So, let's be practical about this, that I don't think New Mexicans are going to choose a PFAS to say, like, we no longer want a cell phone. We no longer want...
because there is no cell phone that doesn't have PFAS.
Exactly. Okay. So there are certain products that are manufactured here or shipped into New Mexico that are necessary for the functioning of our society. They're necessary for emergency purposes, medical devices, pharmaceuticals.
And there's no way around including PFAS in those products?
Well, let me point out this. They're required to have a label, though. So here's the beauty to the regulatory process, is that if a manufacturer wants to avoid labeling, then avoid putting PFAS in the product. To the extent you can't, let's be honest. I mean, our rules are about honesty. They're about transparency. And you as a consumer may have a different risk tolerance than I as a consumer have. Sure. But those products will be available. They'll be labeled, and to the extent you don't want PFAS in your product, you can choose not to buy it, or you can call that manufacturer.
And you're talking a bit about kind of that individual level choices and responsibility that people can take. As this rule becomes implemented, as the Protection Act is phased in over the next several years, what can individual New Mexicans do today to help reduce their risk to PFAS exposure?
Great question. And I think sometimes this topic feels overwhelming and hopeless. And I'm here to say that there's many things you can do to start reducing your risk today. Things like that are grease resistant, that are waterproof, start limiting your exposure to those. I'm a big popcorn fan.
Same.
Are you? So air pop that popcorn. Don't buy microwave popcorn, because those bags contain and have historically contained PFAS. Okay. Make decisions about, maybe you can't afford to buy organic produce today, but maybe you can afford to buy some organic produce and some conventional produce, right? So organic produce tends to not have the pesticides that contain PFAS on them, whereas conventional produce, some pesticides contain PFAS.
For folks who want to make those kinds of decisions, the tips that you're giving right now, can they find those? Does your department offer those?
Absolutely.
Broadly?
So on our website, if you just go to the New Mexico Environment Department's website and look up PFAS, we have a whole bunch of practical tips that are linked right there. Okay. But shop local. Think about your grandmother, your grandfather. They didn't have PFAS pans, depending upon how old.
And those could be the non-stick versions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you have a stainless steel pan, watch a YouTube video about how to make it non-stick by heating it up, throw a little olive oil in it. And if you do it right and get familiar with it, you don't need a non-stick pan. Maybe the convenience of when you bake a cake, you don't, use a little bit of brown parchment paper as opposed to just relying on the non-stick quality of the pan. There's a lot of things you can do with just a little bit of education.
Secretary, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.